top elite salespeople always train. So like when Austin was brand new, when I was brand new, we were constantly training, constantly role playing. And we would just pick like a buddy, and even if you don't have a buddy to role play with, you should be role playing daily, just like beating down on your craft. So I'm going to give the floor to Austin. And because listen, it's not every day that you get direct life insurance sales training from a guy who's soon to be number one in the world part-time. And so you guys don't get a ton of time with him. So I want to give him the spotlight. If you all wouldn't mind unmuting yourselves, give it up for Austin Timmons. Let's go, baby.
Get it.
Oh,
Okay.
Awesome.
Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm super glad that the people that did show up today, you're here. It shows that you're making an investment into yourself. And if you take the hard road in your life will probably end up being a little bit easier. And if you continue to take the easy path, well, your life is most likely going to be hard. Everybody's heard that saying before. It's funny that Nick was just talking about Andy Elliott, because I just spent an hour with that guy inside my head this morning. So I know we're going to get into some sales training today, but the first thing I just wanted to talk about is like find mentors. Like I get that you have Nick here. You guys have me now as well that can mentor you in sales and different training inside this business. But there's so many virtual mentors that you can hold on to. Like Andy doesn't know me. He doesn't know who I am. But if anybody asks me, I'm being mentored by Andy Elliott. You know what I mean? He doesn't know that, right? Or like your Tim Grovers or Brad Lees or all these different guys that have accumulated mass amount of wealth or trained top superstars in any organization, right? I listen to them because what are they doing? And if I emulate what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to soon enough get their results, right? So that's what everything comes into. So, I mean, all about like sales in general is about your transfer of belief, emotion, right? Body language, how you get somebody to feel. You want to get people excited. There's different type of personality types. So sometimes you got to match people a little bit. But if you get people excited when you first hop on, like if someone hops on with me, right? For anybody who saw me rip yesterday, Casey was with me most of the day. Like right as soon as we hop on, like we're right here. Like they know that, okay, I know what I'm talking about in the first 5-10 seconds I'm on the Zoom call with them. I don't hop on and be like, hey guys, how's your day going? None of that stuff. I hop on, I take control, which is what you need to do, right? So a couple of different things, Nick, what I was thinking about going over today, we'll definitely do like some freedom of choice training today, right? And then also closing and where we're going to be moving to in the future when it comes to closing, right? What I really want to do real quick is go around the room before we get started. And I'm just going to ask people a couple of objections, right? And I just want to see kind of where we're at. So that way we have a baseline on where we can go, right? So we'll start with Davey right here, right? Let's get you unmuted for a second.
I'm on mute.
Can you hear me? Cool. So Davey, if we're on the closing page, right, you're offering me the benefits and I say, I want to think about it. What do you say?
That's up. I'm gonna think about it.
Perfect. All right. It's all good, dude. We're here to learn and grow. Huh?
I would probably no.
No.
Go ahead.
I'll get to my point here in a second, right? Because we're just gonna keep bouncing around, and I'll get where I'm going with. So let's go with Will next. He's already unmuted. He wants to rip it. So Will, I want to think about it.
Hey, out of fairness to all the veterans that I have to contact, we really need to make a decision today, so that we can get you in while you're young, at your current health, at your current age, so that we can move on to like the next steps.
Okay, cool. Let's see who's next on. Let's go, Dario. Unmute. What's up, big dog?
How you doing, man?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. All right, so I can't afford it, man.
You can't afford it? All right, that's cool, man. I'm really glad that you told me that. So I just want to let you know that actually we do have a more basic plan that is available. And I just want to make sure that, we're not taking any money away from you. We're not taking any food off your table if that is an issue. So let's take a look at that basic plan just so you can see what that looks like, okay?
Cool. Jake. Jake, I
What
want to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand that. I don't like to make rash decisions either. However, due to the amount of people that we actually have to see and how long it's taking us to get to you, they do ask for a decision today, just in all fairness to all the other union members and all the other veterans. So regardless if it's a yes or no today, I do need a decision.
All right, let's go jump to Kendall. Where you at, big dog? There you are.
Good.
Screen switched around. All right, Kendall, dude, I like the program, man. I don't think I can jump into something like this right now.
Yeah, no, that's not a big deal, Austin. I kind of understand where you're coming from. It's hard to make decisions right away sometimes, and there's some from even for me, there's even more month than money at times. But again, in fairness to the other veterans that are waiting to be seen, I do need that decision today, yes or no. It's not a big deal whether or not we make a no decision or yes. I just need that decision today so I can go back to handling the other veterans that need to be seen.
Okay. So I'm glad that we got to go all the way around the room. I don't know if everybody caught this, right, as we're going around, but we're kind of all saying different shit. And on the exact same aspect, at the end of it, right, you're making statements and you're not asking questions, right? So you're making just long drawn out statement and then you're just leaving it up to them. Hey, I just need a decision today, right? We're not the 4 parts of closing, right? Agree, compliment, recap. Then one of the most important ones is reclose, right? We're drop closing, whether we're changing the benefits, we're asking, is that more comfortable? Is that a little bit more affordable? We have to get them. It's all about moving them in the direction we want them to go. Okay. But before we go that far with it, here's something that's extremely important, right? You're going to be at a constant disadvantage if when the client rebuttals you, you have to think about what you're going to say. If you're thinking about what you're going to say, first of all, they see you, that when you're talking, you're just kind of, it's like riding a motorcycle, right? With your eyes shut, like you're just going to get smashed, dude. You know what I mean? Like you have no direction with where you're going. Everybody here has like the right baseline, but I can tell that we're not practicing rebuttals, because if you ask me, I want to think about it, I can't afford it. What's going to happen is I know those rebuttals like they're my middle name, right? Anybody here, if I ask you your middle name, you don't think about it, you say it. At least I hope you don't think about it, right? But you just kind of you just rip it. So that's why this is so important, that you know your rebuttals, you know your pitches, you know your script, especially the most important parts, like your middle name, like your kid's name, like your parents' name. That way, when someone asks you, you don't look stressed out. Because no one's going to buy from you if when you're supposed to be the professional, they're asking you a question and you're like, you start fucking sweating, you're like, oh man, I don't really know what I'm supposed to say. Like they're not going to go with what you're offering, right? So I'm glad we got this baseline around. So me and Nick have been having some late nights and talking the last couple of days, and we put some heads together with some other organizations on just 6-7 straight drop closes that we're going to be adapting and using in this organization. And they've worked, they've been tested in time, they've worked in many other agencies, they've worked here. So that way, all of you are going to say the same thing. And the next time, this next week, when we have another question like this, like I want to think about it, the expectation is you just already know verbatim what to say and 6 rebuttals after it to make sure that we have the ability to close, right? But before we have the ability to close, we need to make sure the client has the need in the product, right? So what is how do we get somebody, go ahead.
Should we show him real quick?
Yeah, I was about to pull them up, bro.
Oh, dope. So
yeah.
So let's just kind of break down like the psychology of like the first one, right? So like Austin, whenever someone says that they want to think about it, 9 out of 10 times, what does that really mean?
That they can't afford it.
Yeah. And they just don't know how to tell you that. So if you guys are taking notes, when someone says, I want to think about it, it's a smoke screen. So the rebuttal that we're reintroducing back in is just to get them to admit that it's about money. So how does it sound, Austin? So, all right, hey, you know what, Austin? We just we just really want to think about it, man.
Yeah, I completely understand. I like to think about everything before I do it too. In fact, by you doing that, it shows responsibility. Now, do you remember back in the mandatory read-off letter where it said if like the benefits make sense and they fit a need, that you go ahead and roll today, and if not, it's no big deal. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this, brother. If all these benefits were provided you at no cost, just like your no-cost burial and will kit, I'm sure you just enroll today and not even think about it, right?
I mean, yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think what we're getting at is that just $150 a month is a little bit uncomfortable to jump into all at one time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I completely understand. Sometimes there's more month than money for me too. In fact, by you not just jumping into this, it shows you're responsible, right? So let's try this. And then you just go in, you go back and you drop 30, 40 bucks. And then what's going to happen, right, is like now I unshare the screen. I pull back up on HP Pro, the new benefits program I'm offering. And now we get to the recap and reclose. Because now that I'm dropping price, I don't want them to feel like because we're dropping money, we're dropping value, right? So I'm going to recap and I'm going to go, hey, just to recap on this right here, we still have your burial taken care of down the road. We still have your income protected for 4 years. We still have your get hurt, get paid plan on here. And then this is what it is right here. And I'll circle the number. I'm sure that's a little bit more comfortable for you, right?
Yes.
But let's say they say no, we got 4 or 5 more after that, right? But if it doesn't come off smooth off the tongue, and you can't be like, is that a little bit more comfortable for you with the head nods and getting them going and the voice inflections and the tonalities in your voice, they're not going to buy from you.
Yep.
And so
Fire.
yeah, we'll pull them all up. I'll pull them up here right now, and we'll kind of give 5, 6 drop downs. Now, the basis of selling, I just want to ask a couple questions to everybody is, if someone's going to buy a product, what are some things you feel like need to happen prior, right? So what do you think that, like Davey, for you, right? What do you think some of the basis of sales, why do you think sales happen? Like, what are some things that you think you have to do to accomplish a sale, if that makes sense?
Yeah,
I don't know if I asked the question properly.
value, you have to make sure that it's quality and value is what I would, for me, it's going to have to be quality and value.
Yeah. What about you, Will?
I'm gonna make sure that it that in this case it's gonna fit the dynamic of the family that we're trying to reach.
Mm-hmm. Daria?
Need. Especially for me, I'm a little bit of a frugal person in general. So I'll always ask myself, do I really need this though? Like, do I actually want this? So for me, I feel like it's driving a need for the person.
Okay. What about you, Kendall?
I'd say affordability. Just like, everyone's got their own expenses and how much they're trying to fit into the budget. So whatever it is that I may feel I need, I still need to be able to afford it, especially on a monthly basis.
Yeah. Here, I think everyone here is right. I think also going into this, right, I think the biggest part when it comes to sales, right, and you're coming in this organization with the product that we have that everybody needs, right, obviously it's belief, like you need to believe in it, but it's creating a problem that the client didn't know they have, and you have the solution, right? So how do you create the problem? We have storytelling, right? You need to get really good at telling stories because people relate with that. You need to make sure you're relatable, right? Storytelling, relatability. You have tonality. I'm telling a story also with my hands. I'm very active. I'm not robotic. You need to be active, not robotic as well, because we're also over a screen. We're not sitting right in front of each other. So sometimes I got to be a little bit more dramatic on my tonalities and what I'm doing to get that emotion from through this screen into their home, right? We need to be passionate, right? So these are some important things. We're going to go into these closes, and then we're going to go into some freedom of choice stuff. We're going to make sure that we're tying people down on benefits, because if you build a need for this product and then you know how to close, everybody's buying, right? The goal of this is to make sure that we can build the need and get people to buy the product to where everybody buys unless they're just uninsurable, right? Because nobody's leaving my screen unless they're just uninsurable. Can't sell them, right? Unless the 10% that are just a-holes that are not going to buy from anybody, right? They think their life's all figured out, those as well. But 80% of people should be able to be closed. Let's see.
Kind of like what I ran into yesterday. Uninsurables.
Yeah. It happens, bro.
And then, hey guys, while he's pulling that up, Listen, it is so important that you are in control whenever you're rebuttaling. So when you're rebuttaling, notice his body language, notice his confidence. Okay. Now, it's so important when you rebuttal, it's almost like catching a water balloon, right? It's like you grab the rebuttal and you bring it in softly, right? Because you don't just want to be like, oh yeah, you want to think about it? Well, boom, boom, right? You want to be like, hey, listen, I totally agree. Nod your head, right? It's all about being empathetic, kind of seeing things from their point of view. I totally agree where you're at. Hey, listen, by the fact that you say that you want to think about it, and don't ever say, I don't like to make rash decisions, because you're saying that this isn't a rash decision. This is a simple decision. Guys, we're talking about $100.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. The last time they bought a round of beers at a baseball game for $100, did they call their financial advisor? Probably not. Right. So we're talking about $100. We're talking about $90. It's not a big decision. And so it's just our job to kind of make them feel comfortable, right? So when they say that they want to think about it, I totally understand. And then it's kind of like building them up, right? So just like Austin says, which I love, hey, the fact that you want to think about it shows me that you're responsible. But here's the thing, I'm sure that you didn't mind the fact if, God forbid something happened to you, all this stuff's taken care of. As a matter of fact, if this was free, I'm sure that you jump at it, right? Okay. Well, then look, it's probably not a matter of, do you want to think about protecting your family? It's a matter of, is this, $150 a month going to be comfortable? So let's just do this. And then don't even wait. You just have to assume the sale.
Yeah.
And then whenever you down close, always assume that's more comfortable. So Julie, I'm sure, $99. I mean, that's less than $50 a month for you and your spouse. I'm sure that's a heck of a lot more comfortable. So Lord knows that you need this. So we're going to set this up for you under one condition. You promise me, if this ever becomes uncomfortable for you, that you reach out to me. Do you promise?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to get this rolling. I just need you to get up for me once, grab your driver's license, and I'll share my screen for the application. And then, Julie says, Nick, $100. I just don't think that I just think we're going to need some time. And so that's what Austin's going to show you here, how to down close again, but be careful to sound like a used car salesperson. It's like, oh, that's not comfortable. Okay, well, let's go lower. Like, how low can we go? Right. You don't want to do that. And so I just wanted to preface the down close with, whenever you down close, be careful not to come across as you're selling based on price, because you don't want to diminish the value. Right. And so it's like, okay, $100. All right. So $100 is still not comfortable. Okay. Let me see what we can do. Almost sound a little bit like hesitant to reduce the price again, because you want her to kind of be right. Because you don't just want to be, again, like a cheap car salesperson, right? Is that, oh, okay, well, $100 isn't covered. Okay. Well, let's see what else we can do. How low can we go? Right. So I just want to preface that, before he goes into this. So it's so important that you guys know that when you're down closing, it's okay to down close 3, 4, 5 times, but how you down close is more important than the down close itself. So I think y'all will love this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so important. We just want to it's all about adding tools to the tool belt, right? I think what's happening a lot is we're getting past I want to think about, so we don't know how to properly reduce coverage. Another thing, as we all saw, we're all kind of saying different shit. So we want to be on the same page so we can practice together, grow together. Here's the thing, is the best sales organizations in the world, right? So we were talking about Andy Elliott earlier, has a huge training sales company. He made $900 million just selling cars, right? Just selling cars. I don't know if you guys have ever sold cars before. You make $1 million selling cars, that's hard, right? Commissions aren't very high, and there's not a whole lot of people that are coming and ripping, right? And to buy vehicles. So the most important thing when we're going over things like this is, like, guys like him, his whole organization, they're all saying the same thing. And that's important because we can role play with each other and we can get better. We can rip. I want to come into this arena and tell Davey, I want to think about it. And you're just, bam, you're just ripping all the way down. Will, I want to think about it. You can rip 6, 7 rebuttals like clockwork. So that way, when a client hits you with it, it's slow motion, right? You can sit down, relax, put the emotion into it. And then when you need to pick it up, put the energy, it should be like a roller coaster, right? You be bringing on the client on a roller coaster, right? You control the ups and you control the downs, which is what we're going to go into right here. So this is a basis. This is going to get rolled out to everybody. There's going to be some slight tweaks that are made just to make sure it's curated for all the veterans. Can you guys see this right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have do we want to think about it? You know, do we still want to think about it? So this is what we were going into. So you can't fight price, or I mean, you can't fight, I want to think about it. You're just going to run around in circles. What you can do is take the I want to think about it, turn it into an I can't afford it, because we can drop price. We just got to make sure as we're dropping price, we don't feel like to the client we're dropping value. So that way they still enroll. So we have the exact same that I just said earlier when he asked me, we want to think about it. This is the exact rebuttal. All right. Let me ask you this. If all these benefits were at no cost, like the accidental death and dismemberment benefit, I'm sure you'd enroll your family into option one, get the coverage they need today. What I'm guessing is $150 a month is a little unaffordable at the moment. Yes, it is. Wait for them to respond, because it's supposed to be a conversation. It's not one-sided. You want them to buy in so they feel like they have the control. I totally understand. Sometimes for me, there's more month than money too. And by noticing it, it shows responsibility. That's why we don't just send the laptop. They send me with it. My job is to figure out where your needs and your budget meet, get you started from there. So let's try this. To recap, we have your final expenses covered, da-da-da-da. Is that more comfortable for you? Now, here's if they tell you no again. No big deal. I'm here to help you, not to hurt you. So let's try this. Now, to recap, we have your final expenses covered. Your drop closing again. Unshare the screen. Now, I'm sure that's more comfortable for you, right? Client says no again. No big deal. The most important thing is we get you started somewhere today. Once you're a policy holder with us, we can always come back out later and add the rest of the coverage. Now, to recap, we have your final da-da-da-da-da. Surely that's more affordable for you, right? The client says no again, right? You're already 3-4 no's down. No big deal. Out of all the benefits on the screen, which two or which one is the most important to you? Let me just go ahead and tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to make sure your final expenses and your income are protected. Now, I know that's more affordable for you. Just go ahead and grab your driver's license, and I'm going to make sure you qualify, right? And then you just look to the side, right? Or at that same one, what me and Nick are going to add into this, because at this point, it should be around $30, right? Is you circle it and say what this comes out to is about $1 a day. Now, I'm sure that we can set aside $1 a day to make sure our family isn't setting aside $15,000 tomorrow, right? You know, who realistically is going to say no to that, right? Everybody's going to say yes to one of those drop closes if we're building the need and we're getting the tie downs prior, right? If you're blowing through the benefits, the freedom of choice, income protection, hospitalization, cancer, all that, if you're just blowing through it and just saying it because it's on your script, that's why you're getting all this pushback, right? You need to do or die on the benefit screen when you're pitching it, getting them to tell you why it's important, which is what we're going to jump into now. So when we're doing freedom of choice, I'm going to randomly pick. I promise I'm not picking on anybody. I just want somebody to pitch me the freedom of choice certificate. We don't need to pull up HP Pro or anything. I'm going to pick Kendall. So freedom of choice, when you say, okay, the next benefit I came up with you is the freedom of choice certificate, how would you tell me what it is and what it's going to do for my family?
All right, so Austin, the next benefit we're going to be kind of highlighting here, very important, probably the most important while we're meeting today, is their burial and final expenses. So either way, burial or cremation, you will be able to get the freedom of choice. Now, if you're able to qualify, the way the freedom of choice works is that it's actually valid at all of the funeral homes of your choosing. Now, the way funeral homes typically work is that, the way that insurance typically works is that we all have some type of insurance already. But in the event that we were to pass, what happens is our families are either pooling money together, pulling out of their savings, starting GoFundMes, things of that nature. and then they're kind of hoping that the insurance company reimburses them that money, but they actually have like 6 months legally to pay that out. They're going to spend that time trying to get out of paying you guys. So what the freedom of choice does is actually the paper or the values in the paper. So in the event something happens to you, your significant other, your beneficiary, they would just pick a funeral home of their choosing. And when they say, I'm sorry for your loss, but how are you going to be paying for this today? They're actually going to just hand them the freedom of choice. Hey, my dad, my husband had the freedom of choice. And from that point on, everything's actually taken care of. It's kind of all I got right now.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I mean, I like how smooth it was when you're saying it, right? Is everybody here,
Yeah.
are they all kind of saying that same thing? Someone have a little bit
I
of a
usually
different
usually
accent, though?
throw in we paid out over $500 million over COVID, the 4.5 days. I usually throw that in there too, kind of just
Okay.
because I'm on the spot.
Okay, cool. So there's gonna be a couple of things, right? So is mostly everybody we're on the same page though, that we're just pitching the freedom of choice, we're explaining it? Is that kind of where it stops and then you move on to the next benefit? Or after you pitch the freedom of choice, what do you say? So if you finish that, how do you get me to buy into it?
Yeah, I would go into how much it allocated for you. So if you got a $30,000 freedom of choice, I kind of explain how much benefit you would actually need.
Yeah.
Typically recommend at least 10 to 15,000.
Yeah.
Obviously, funerals still getting more expensive. So I recommend that you do the 30,000, 40,000, etc.
Okay. Davey, you wanted to add something on that, or? Okay. So, right, this is something that's very important. Okay. You obviously want to have control over the entire presentation, but you need to make it feel like it's a conversation, right? That this is their idea, that it's their idea to enroll into it, that it's their idea, that's important to them, right? And the way that you do that is we're going to get into pitching the freedom of choice. But since Kendall, you just went over that, is after it, you could say something as simple as, after you pitch the whole thing, right? Because it sounds super cool what it does. I'm sure you can see why all the other vets have this set up for their family, right? And then get them to say something, yes, right? Wait for them. If they don't say yes, I mean, like, you can see that, right? Get the tie down, right? Where's this at?
So it's so important, guys, that you never take away from the script. You can add to it, just don't ever take away. So Kendall, even you, that was a solid pitch, but you didn't do it properly because you didn't tie him down, right? So like at the end, you got to make sure, brother. And listen, don't be afraid to just, read off the script. You know what I mean? That's all I did for my first year, my first 2 years. Even now, when I sell somebody, I'm literally reading off the script verbatim. It's so powerful, and so like so you missed the most important part. Awesome job though, right? It was fluid, but that last part where it's like, Mary, I'm sure that you would agree, having this document's going to be, extraordinarily valuable. If like, God forbid, Joe were to die tomorrow.
Yeah, and then you can, like, exactly what Nick's saying, right? These tie downs after, you can even go a step further and be like, do you feel like it fits a need, John, to not have to come out of pocket for Mary's funeral? Right? To not have to pull out of your own bank account $15,000, $20,000 to pay for her funeral? Or you really would ask Mary that, right? For John, right? And then once they say, yeah, why don't you just ask them why? Why is that? And then have them tell you why that would help them out. And I'm not just saying 3 or 4 words. This is what I'll do if I ask somebody why, and they're like, well, because it'll pay for the funeral. Yeah, and what else? And you'll notice if you've ever had a conversation with someone, like if you're talking and then you stop and I just kind of sit here and I keep nodding my head and I don't say a fucking word, excuse my language, and I just keep nodding, you're naturally just going to be like, and you're going to keep talking. You're going to keep talking. And then as that's happened, is you're just going to keep tying yourself down. Like, exactly, guys. So this next benefit is, once I feel like you're tied down enough, then I'm rolling. Even if it gets, like, it shouldn't get awkward, right? But that awkwardness is good sometimes. You need to learn how to live in the uncomfortable situations. Because if you're not tying them down there, what's the point of even going to the money page? You're just wasting another 20 minutes. You could be with another client or talking to another client on the phone. right? Start respecting your time and being intentional with your time. If I got somebody in front of me, right, I'm going to love the person that I'm with, and I'm going to make sure they don't have this stuff. So I'm going to make sure they know they need it. And the way that you get somebody to know that they need it is when I'm pitching them something, I'm creating the problem, right? Telling the story, creating the path that I want them on. It's these little wins, right? We start off here. They don't know me. I don't know them. I only know their name and their birthday, right? We start off here, and I need to get them all the way up here. So how do we do that? It's these little yeses, these little tie downs, these little da-da-da-da-da. And then we get to here, boom. The medically uninsurable, like I'm finding this stuff out on like the needs analysis, right? I'm not closing a deal and then getting all the way to the end and then figuring out they have cancer, right? That stuff should be figured out already, So we just got to be intentional with our time. So we'll go into the freedom of choice, and then we're going to touch on these tie downs again, because they're so important, guys. Stop blowing through the script. Like, love the person you're with, being intentional with your time, and put some emotion into it. If we're having the freedom of choice and you're pitching it, and that you have a husband and wife here, and Mary's going to take this to the funeral home, why don't you just pick on John real quick? Talk to Mary like John's already dead and gone. Hey, Mary, God forbid when John passes away, this is a certificate you're going to take down to the funeral home of your choice, right? This is where you discuss the cost. Make it real. Discuss the cost of flowers, cremation, services, casket, right? That's where you're going to sit down with the funeral director, and he's going to say, hey guys, like, how are you paying for this? Right? Well, you're going to honor that amount and put that here on the back that you agree upon with the funeral director. That's when they're going to call us. They're going to be like, hey, we have John here preparing his final arrangements. How much coverage does he have with you guys? Of course, we're not going to tell him that, John, because we said you had a $15,000 or a $30,000 or a $40,000 burial plan. How much do you think your funeral just went up to? A lot, right? So instead we say honor the amount the beneficiary put on the back and get with the family for the remainders. Also touch on the fact it's important that we pay same day. That's huge, because all life insurance companies, just like the one, and then I'll drop the insurance companies they said before, right? So like all insurance companies, like the one through your work, that one through State Farm, they have 180 days to pay their claims. What that means is you're waiting 6 months and you're writing a check out of pocket and getting reimbursed later. I don't know about you, but I know I don't just have $15,000, $20,000 laying around to wait to get reimbursed. Do you? Get them to say yes again, right? That's tying them down. And then you go, I'm sure you can see why all the other members or all the other veterans have this set up for their family, right? And John, do you feel like it would fit a need to not have to come out of pocket in your own bank account to pay for your funeral? Yeah. And why is that? These are all things you got to become really good at what you do, right? And then this becomes the easiest career path you could ever get into, and you're going to make more money than you know what to do with. That's a fact, right? Nick, do you have anything to add on that?
Fire. Listen, you guys, first and foremost, how valuable is this workshop right now? Can I get some noise, some hand claps, some thumbs ups?
Huge.
Huge.
Come on.
A
Right?
lot of good stuff.
Wonderful. I greatly
And so
appreciate
this really, just comes down to a question of like, and I hope you're thinking this in your head, like, wow, so I can really make $1 million a year. I could really make $500,000 a year selling life insurance. So what does my input need to look like? What does my input need to look like in order to get the desired output? What does your input need to look like? Because what if you sounded it as good as Austin? What if you had the belief that Austin had? How much money, what would your paycheck look like Friday? And so that's like, those are the only questions that I ask myself is, if I want to control the outer world, if I want to control my paycheck for Friday, what does my work need to look like Monday through Thursday? Or, Monday through Sunday? Because they say that millionaires are created not between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., but millionaires are created between the hours of 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. So what does that mean? What are you doing between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m.? Because y'all are here, which is great. But this, like, don't wait for us to, put on the workshop for you to get better. Because you have all the tools right in front of you, like right at like your fingertips. And so the question that you got to ask yourself is, how many hours are you going to role play the freedom of choice this week? Like, you got to get so good that people can't say no. Because amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals practice till they can't get it wrong. Because you know that you're going to get the uninsurables, and you know that you're going to get the ignorance, and you know that you're going to get the shoppers. But what happens when you get the buyers? Are you dropping the ball with the buyers? Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you present the freedom of choice the way that he just did it, notice how we both have copies right here. You have your copy handy. Hold it up if you got it. Beautiful. Love it. Okay. If you don't, get one, order them, and have this, because when you could hold this, when you can go off your screen share and hold it, and then point to the top line right here. That's what I do every single time when I close a veteran, is I'll stop the screen share and I'll literally hold the real McCoy. Like, Mary, you're going to take this into the funeral home, and you get to write down the amount that you're willing to pay the funeral home director right on there. Because, Mary, let's just be honest. The last thing that you want to do is bring your life insurance policy into the funeral home. Because when you bring your life insurance policy into the funeral home, and that funeral home director sees that it's worth $50,000 with State Farm, what do you think they're going to do? Will, what do you think that funeral home's going to do?
They're going to charge you $50,000 because that's what they see.
And you know what's sad is they don't think that they're taking the money from you. They think that they're taking the money from the big Globe Life company. But the reality is they're taking money out of your wife's mouth, food out of your wife's mouth. And so that's why we have the freedom of choice, right? Because all she has to do is walk this in. So while she's waiting for State Farm to pay out, she just walks us into the funeral home, writes down the amount. Because, Will, let's just be honest, there's two major times, guys, where we're going to get taken advantage of financially. Number one, I'm not sure if you've ever been married, but at our wedding, the wedding planner just smelled the dollar signs, right? Because the wedding planner could pull on your heartstrings and say, oh, well, the cake's going to be $5,000. The videographer is going to be $5,000. And what do? You just pay it, YOLO, or YOMO, like you only get married once, hopefully. Well, and the second time, whenever we get taken advantage of financially, is when someone we love dies. You just lost your best friend. Your wife just died. Your mom just died. So think about if you and Mary were to die together, and your daughter, Brandy, I mean, she's not going to be in the right frame of mind. The weight of the world's going to be on her shoulders. You're going to want her to walk a life insurance policy into the funeral home. What do you think that funeral home director is going to do? They're trained to take advantage of your children, and it's sad. So that's why we have the freedom of choice to combat that, to fight that. You guys all understand? So again, I'm just going from the heart here to explain to you. It's like sometimes this is what you got to do. But if you don't believe in the freedom of choice like I do, then you're not going to close them, then you're not going to sell them. Sales is a transference of belief.
Yeah.
So do you see how I just took myself there emotionally? Like how I just painted the picture with words? This is what you're going to need to do. Notice how I said that you can always add to the script and never take away. So if you're going to add to the script, I would add that story. Walk them through them dying today without the freedom of choice. What does that look like? Their daughter bringing in their life insurance policy to the funeral home. What does that look like? oh, the funeral home, sorry, or the life insurance carrier, sorry about your luck, but we need these other 6 forms signed. And that's going to delay the process 6 weeks. So now your daughter's got to do a GoFundMe on Facebook, right? Walk them through what not having the freedom of choice looks like. So if you're writing notes, if you're taking notes, just so you know, note takers are money makers. Note takers are money makers. And so if you're jotting something down, I would write this down: fear of loss, FOL. So the FOC, before you sell the FOC, you got to sell the FOL, fear of loss. So what happens if you die without this? I'm going to tell you what happens. Your wife's going to lug your life insurance policy, which she doesn't know how to read. No one knows how to read it because it's 100 pages. And then she's just going to say, here, my husband died and I just don't want to deal with this. Here's a life insurance policy. And it's worth $100,000. That funeral home director is going to charge you 40, 50 grand for something that could be done for 10.
Yeah.
So just imagine dying without this, right? So you have to imagine it though, as a salesperson. So like what I'm trying to teach you is your inner belief. So I'm trying to instill inner belief in you right now. I'm not saying this to you so that you can try to regurgitate this to the client. What I'm doing is instilling the belief in your heart. Like if they die with this, if they die without this, what does that look like? And then just that belief that you have, like raise your hand if your belief just went up with the freedom of choice. So then that's it. So if you have the belief in your hearts, whenever you say the words on the script, the words will start to come to life. Does that make sense? But if you don't believe in it, and if your belief's not a 10 out of 10, then again, you're just saying words on a script. And so that's all that I had to add to that.
Can I jump in real quick? Just the story that you're telling, I've lived. From 2012 to 2018, my husband and I had 12 family deaths.
Wow.
We lost all of our grandparents, both of our fathers, uncles, his sister, and brother-in-law.
Jeez.
I have walked through so many of these, and I have seen what it does to families when they have to think about money, when they should be thinking about celebrating the life they just lost. And the story that Nick's telling is so real, and it's not real for other people. Like, it's real for us. And I have never seen anything like this. I have dealt with 4 different insurance companies, and I've seen what happens when they have nothing. And you think you're covered because you have a savings account. And you think you've covered because you got stocks and you can dip into the 401k, and none of it's there. Like, let me just tell you from somebody in the room who's lived it. Like, I used to work for a different life insurance company. I know some of you guys have as well. I believe in this product, and I'm like a week into this company. So like, take that with all the grains of salt that you need. But I believe in this.
Fire.
And I'm here because I've walked this road both ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the road that I want to be on. So that's just my 2 cents for today. So
Thank you for that.
Fire.
Thank you. Yeah, if you notice, I mean, like what we sell, let's get everything straight, is life insurance, right? And you need to make it real for our clients. And it's okay to be a little bit hard on people, because what's the alternative? I've sold clients that I've been really hard on, the 6th, the 7th, no, I'm still going. I'm still going. No matter what your reason for doing it is, whether it's because you got no money in your bank account or not, at the end of the day, you're doing the right thing for them. No matter what your personal circumstances, here's the alternative. I've also done it to where there was clients I wasn't as hard on. I wasn't really in the right mental state. They told me no 1 or 2 times. It's like, you know what? Maybe they really don't need it. Walked away. And I've actually gotten phone calls 2 different times from clients that I was hard on, and it was a thank you. Even they didn't really like me that much when I was in the house, because I wouldn't get up and leave. This is when we were inside the house. I wouldn't close my laptop. I was hard on them. I've got the thank you, and I've got the call. Hey, is it too late to get this policy? Or, hey, do we get anything set up back then? They're like calling for their no-cost life insurance policy you give them. you know, and is that going to pay out? Say that was accidental. We were going over the permanent program. I'm sorry for your loss. You know, we didn't go into it. And that's a really tough phone call to have, you know, especially when you know that you could have pushed a little bit harder and had that family protected and you didn't. And then now something happens to them and their whole life is in a disarray. Right. So that's where you just saw Nick go into the storytelling aspect. Everybody here, I'm assuming if you haven't had a situation in your life, I had like when my dad passed away. He had a life insurance policy through his work company. That thing took like 4 months to pay out. I was 18 years old. You know, I only had like $12,000 to $15,000 in my bank accounts from selling door to door in Hawaii. And all that went to the funeral home, right? All of it. You know, me and my sister actually split it. My dad's burial was like 20 grand. You know, we split it. And then the company reimbursed us, thankfully, later, but it was like 4 months down the road. I don't remember, it was 6, 7 years ago, you know, but it's something that's very real. Okay. So that's why getting extremely talented and just being an executioner with this stuff is so important. So you're saving the families that can be saved, and everybody wants to be sold. They're just looking for someone they can relate to. So you got to be able to become relatable with these individuals. You got to be able to tie them down. And then when they say no, you need to have 6 reasons to get them to say yes. But we can't do that if we're not building the need. You can do the same thing with income protection we just did with freedom of choice, right? When you're tying them down after you do paycheck protection. So let's think about why paycheck protection is important, right? Your financial, they say this in the American Income videos. We used to play videos. We wouldn't even talk because people, when they talk, they say stupid stuff. So we would just have agents play videos. They wouldn't talk. They would just say, this next video plays this. You would play the video and you shut up. And this is what the income protection video said. It said, guys, the heartbeat of your family, right? The financial heartbeat is your paycheck. And when that heartbeat stops and you no longer come home from work, like what's the alternative to that? Here's the solution. Is we have what's called paycheck protection to make sure, John, when you don't come home from work tomorrow, that paycheck is still coming in each and every month for 1 to 5 years, right? Let me ask you, John, or Mary, how important do you think it would be to have that paycheck still coming in each and every day, even though John doesn't come back home from work? I'm sure you can see why all of our members have that set up for them, right? Yeah. And why do you think that would help you out if John doesn't come home tomorrow? You know, lean into the difficult questions, the difficult scenarios. It's okay. Because what's the worst alternative? They hang up the Zoom call. I've never had anybody do that to me, by the way. And I've gotten real with people. They're not going to hang up the Zoom call, kick you out of their house. You know, here's what the good alternative is. You protect that family because eventually something's going to happen. They're going to use this benefits because our benefits are forever, right? It's going to pay. This is what I'm pointing at. Right here, so if I'm doing like my pitch and my script, right here is where you're going to designate the amount on the back. So that's the amount that you'd agree with the funeral director. So Mary and John, so I'm painting this picture. John, you passed away. I'm going to pick on you for a second. Mary, you're going to walk into the funeral home of your choice, right? You're going to bring the certificate. That's when you're going to walk in. You're going to discuss the cost of burial, funeral, cremation services, flower, casket. And then they're going to say, that's cool, but how are you paying for this, right? You're going to tell them that you have this freedom of choice certificate. And what you're going to do is agree on an amount with the funeral director for the services. And you're going to designate that amount right here in the back. So that's the importance of this line, is that's where they're going to put the 15,000, 10,000. And it's very important is that you say, what you don't want to do is tell them you have a $30,000 burial policy, because now what's your burial cost, right? We all know that going into it. Now does that answer your question? Like the importance of that line?
Yeah,
it's just where they're going to write the amount, right?
Yeah, that did help.
But we don't want to dig into like all the little forms and stuff here on the back, because they're asking questions.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to jump to Davey right after this. The important thing I wanted to add to this though is, before we jump into the freedom of choice, something that's really powerful is when you bring up this next benefit they created for all our members is the freedom of choice. The question I always ask clients, and we're going to add this to the script, it's something really simple, easy to say, it's not hard to memorize, is, guys, do you know what the average cost of a burial is right now in fucking whatever state in Washington, or average cost of a burial in Louisiana, you know? And they'll say 10, 12,000. You agree? Yeah, you're close. It's actually this amount, you know? And we have this projected funeral chart right here. We need to make some adjustments because funeral rates have rose. Like my dad's in 2016 was like I said, 16 to 20 grand. This says the average is 13, but that's just across the US, right? And that's like bare minimum funeral. This is what I do is, guys, you're close, and I'll do this. I'll pull it up. Hold on. This right here. And this is where you get tie down into this, right? So it's not, you're taking it away from you. Even though you're the expert, you're putting it on, guys. So the Funeral Directors Association created this study. And it says the average cost of the burial right now in the US is $13,320, right? Now, that's an average. So you have higher in Seattle, lower in like Podunk, Louisiana. And cremation, so you're overcoming the cremation and the burial. Cremations are about half of that, right? So between your $4,000 and $8,000 mark. Now, if we look at 20 years in the future, the average cost of a burial is right around $30,000. And that's just with inflation at 4%. Guys, do you think inflation's higher or lower than 4% right now? Higher. So this could even be more, right? Now, I don't know if you're anything like me, but cutting a $30,000 check out of pocket, I definitely don't have the money to do that. Do you guys? You know, and you're creating the realization. So that way, that's exactly why they created this freedom of choice. So you just